Okay, so I broke my ankle back in July and twisted my foot around, which is kind of a cool thing because it kind of gives you a new look on life when you're separated from everything you knew by 9 weeks, and you know your husband has to do things like figure out that you really do have to get the garbage off the bottom of the dishwasher. So if I'm moving around a little bit, or moving around a little gingerly, it's only because I just had my second surgery a week ago today. First off, welcome. Thank you all for coming. I've never seen such a quiet but wide awake group. Either you're zombies or you're actually paying attention to Eric and to Don Monte. Those of you from years past, you noticed I used to always sit over here, and I moved over here. That's because this is Suffolk, and this is Nassau. And I live in Suffolk. Yeah. But from the time I came to Newsday, my job was always to cover Nassau. So I actually should be sitting probably on the floor down there. Reverend DeVoe actually said something that's kind of interesting during the prayer, which I jotted down. Reverend, I didn't want you to think I wasn't praying. I was just jotting it down. He said, we must leave this place better than we found it. We must leave this place better than we found it. And some could make an argument that this place is maybe not the best it has been. Some might make the argument that to make it better than we found it might not take a lot these days. But I want to kind of pose that question to the panel in two ways. Number one, Don Monte also said that the public is ready like it's never been before to do smart growth and to do some of these projects. Just by a show of hands from public officials in the audience and up here, do you think that's true? Do you think it's easier now to get things done? How many of you think it's easier? No, you think it's easier? Anybody? Okay, public officials out there. You think you're Butch, right? I meant as a name. Sorry. Any other public officials out there? All right, I'm going to do something really unusual. Why don't you come on up here? Come on. You want to come up and join the panel? Come on. Yay, come on. This is a brave guy. Come on up. Mayor Cavallaro, first off, congratulations on your award last night from the Diversity Council. Tell me why you think it's easier.
Is this working? Can you hear me? You know, I just can speak from my own experience, and I think that if an elected official or a village board or a town board is open, I think that what Don Monte said is right. There is a silent majority of people, at least in my own experience in my municipality, who want to see economic development, who want to see healthy communities. And I think if you're open and you're transparent, I think that there's a lot of momentum that can be garnered to get your projects done. I think something I said, I think when I said it in a different forum, Eric probably cringed. You know, we talk about smart growth, and not all growth is smart growth. But if you can make a compelling argument to your residents and the stakeholders involved in a particular project, I think there's a lot of receptivity to getting projects done.
Our new panel member, introduce yourself and tell us why you think it's easier, please. And you get to stay, too.
No, that's okay. Last time I was on a panel with Larry Levy, I said too much, so I'll try to keep it real simple. Don't let a good crisis go to waste, and I think the majority of my residents and neighbors and friends realize that this is a crisis, and the fear of change is finally being outweighed by the fear of doing nothing, and that you have to hold people's hands. I agree. I think and it's a process. It's a painful process. So when I say easier, yes, you can get it. They're not afraid. You couldn't even talk about this 6, 7, 8 years ago. I mean, it was just an issue to even have Eric come into our village to do a visioning was controversial. Right, Eric? I mean,
That's just me. I'm just kind of nothing to do with the issue.
No, but it was because, again, the fear of change. But doing nothing isn't an option, and you need to hold people's hands and walk them through it. And so I think, yeah, it's doable, and it's happening. And I think what's happening, sadly, sometimes, is that people are looking for the home runs, the mega projects. You hear about the Nassau County at the hub in Ronkonkoma and these huge Wyckoff's project. All these huge projects, which are really home runs, more than home runs, and it's the singles and doubles. It's the Patchokes, the Bay Shores, the Farmingdales that I think at the end of the day are going to win the game. And take away the fear so people and my residents can go and kick the tires, can actually go to a little downtown and see that this isn't the boogeyman that everyone made it out to be.
And can you do me a favor, please, since not everybody knows who you are?
I want to keep it that way.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But for now, you're just Butch. Come on, you can tell them who you are.
What's wrong with Butch? I'm a local farmer, believe it or not. No, I'm a local nursery guy that got angry, and instead of being an armchair quarterback, I got involved in government locally, and I'm mayor of Farmingdale, lifelong resident, and but a garden center owner that sells the best, the best plants anywhere, for half the price of Hicks. Okay.
Thank you. Now for the.
I have to take exception to that.
Okay, for everybody else. Somebody want to take a stab at why it is still difficult and how you deal with that? Because I believe everybody, is there anybody here who doesn't have anything working? Do you want to embarrass yourself by raising your hand now? No? Everybody. So everybody has something working. Yes? Smart growth, Nassau? Yes? Smart growth, Suffolk? No? East Hampton, talk to me. What's going on out there?
When you mention the word smart growth in East Hampton, it makes people nervous and makes people think that we're going to be inundated with new residents, which will destroy our preserved land. That's what happens. So there is no smart growth in East Hampton.
See, an honest politician. I like it. So is that a good thing or is that a bad thing, though?
That's a bad thing.
Explain why. Tell me, we're at the town board. Actually, we're at the deli.
Is this my 5-minute speech, or is this?
There is no 5-minute speech.
These are extra
Welcome
minutes.
to the new panel. First of all, I have to apologize because I normally walk around to everybody and explain what the rules are. So for the first time in 10 years, I'll say them out loud. My ankle, I wanted to rest it up because standing up here is not necessarily the best thing for it. But the rules up here are no opening statements. You try to get your information in through the questions. If you have something to say it. If you go on too long, I'll cut you off. First, I'll look at you, and if you keep going, I'll do more than look at you. And, our job here is to inform, not to bore. So I've just given my speech to everybody. So no, I'm sorry,
Okay,
but I should have wandered down there to tell you this. So tell me, we're in the deli. You're talking to the good people of East Hampton. Tell them why. We're all in the deli. We're waiting for a bagel.
Let's see. Driving here, and it took me an hour and a half to get here because I come from way out there on the east end of Long Island, so I apologize for being late. But I was thinking, how the heck do I explain what we've accomplished in terms of smart growth in the past year? Because I think that was one of the assignments of this summit. And I thought, I don't know that we have any accomplishments, and that's a terrible thing to say. I believe firmly in smart growth. In fact, in 2003, our town board hired Mr. Koppelman to try to do a comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan, there was another company whose name I forget, but it was all focused on smart growth. And I know that New York State embraces the concept of smart growth, but the election came and the people who were supporting that comprehensive plan got ousted, and a new group came in, and all they did was upzone, upzone, upzone. In fact, just yesterday, I looked and saw that of our 2% of our land that's devoted to retail, 2% of our land is devoted to retail. 46% is preserved, 46% is residential, and the balance is things like wetlands or institutional or in some form public. So of the 2% that is retail, 43% is zoned residential, which means it's pre-existing non-conforming, which means they can't improve their property without getting stuck in our planning process. And can I just take 2 more minutes?
No.
Thank you.
But that's, I mean, you kind of get to the point that is a little more difficult on the ground. Let's go to our veteran over here, John Kaiman. Congratulations, dude, on re-election. And congratulations to the rest of you all on re-elections, and, you know, a shout out to those who aren't here.
You know, just listening to what Don Monte had said, you know, if there's a silent majority, a majority that supports development, there's a voting majority that doesn't. And when you look around here, I've been coming here for about 8 years, and a lot of the folks that I used to sit with are not here anymore. County executives, town supervisors, and apparently other trustees and such, and mayors even. The challenge is, if you want to be in this business, is to be able to navigate through the challenge of growing a community, smart growth, whatever we call it, and yet still maintaining the confidence of your community. And each year I come and we talk about how, you know, in my town, you know, we want to do smart growth projects, we want to develop, we want to grow, we want to make sure our economic base is sustained. And yet we also have to be the folks that say no, and we have to be the folks that, that challenge virtually any developer that comes into our town, into our midst, because there's always going to be 20 or 30 people in a town board meeting that are going to be organized and loud and sometimes oppressive. And the challenge for us is to look at a room and say, if I represent 240,000 people and I have 30 people in a room opposing something, do I or the town board then simply vote down a project because the majority of the room is against that project? And so the challenge, I think, to the folks in the room and to people who want to talk and continue to discuss smart growth is to generate interest from people within the community. People stand in the community and say, there's 40 people in the room, we're all against it, there's nobody here for it, how could you possibly vote for this project? And that's a very logical thing to an elected official sitting there seeing everybody else who voted for projects like this, you know, losing their elections. And so 20, 30, 40 people in the room that say, you know, we do support this, really makes a difference. And so generating that public discussion, getting people who actually may have some or see some benefit to a project in the room, part of the discussion will make a big difference. But it is a challenge, and I'm not so sure that half full glass is as full as we think.
All right. Now, you used the word, an interesting word, oppressive. Oppressive. You've got at least 3 of you here that went through some oppression on the way to trying to get some things done. Mayor Hall did. I think Huntington went through some oppression. And Riverhead, you just had a great, I wouldn't call it oppression, but you guys just had an election where people want development. So let's hear from you guys on this. I mean, how did you work your way against oppression? Mayor Hall. Even the microphone doesn't like him. Go ahead.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. In Hempstead, I think we have a little a unique situation. The challenge that we have in our village is gentrification. We have a person that lives in Rockville Center that comes to our meetings and comes to our public hearings and telling the residents that we're going to move out all the African Americans just like they did in Harlem. So that challenge for us is really difficult, and Sean and Monty can attest to the person I'm speaking of. And we have to, you know, do a grassroots campaign and go out to the residents and assure them that that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is increase the tax base in Hempstead, you know, trying to improve the quality of life for our residents and also create jobs for us. So I just think that our village, because we're a minority village, we just have that unique situation, and the fact that someone that lives in Rockville Center that's from a nice community is telling our residents and telling them that we're going to take them all and put them out and bring in people that don't look like the village. So that's what we have over in our in Hempstead, and it's a real challenge.
In Huntington, you also had sort of an interesting, I live in Huntington, so I can say with authority, it was kind of it was rough, it was rough out there last year. Councilwoman Berland, you want to speak on that?
Sure. Morning, everybody. Oh, I can definitely attest to the fact that it was rough. This was one of the, I've been elected since 2001, and this was the worst campaign that I have ever participated in. From months before the election even started, the flyers that were going around saying dump the Democrats because of Avalon Bay, they don't care about you, they want high-density housing in your neighborhoods, and it disintegrated to anti-Semitic attacks against me toward the end, saying that all I cared about was money, and took my $76,000 salary and said I really make $2.6 million, which would be a lovely thing, but you know. And everybody on the town board makes the same salary, so it's interesting. But it really did disintegrate, and there may be a silent majority, but they have to stop being silent, because the vocal minority is incredibly vocal, and with the advent of the internet, it's very hard to unring these bells. People put things out there that are just, they're just misrepresentations, they're out and out lies, and they're reproduced over and over and over again. And people who even want to give you the benefit of the doubt, when they read it so many times on the internet, you know, they just they're at a loss because they can't tell what's reality from fantasy. So I think that it's, you know, I think it's very important that to stop this attitude of oppression, we have to be open. We have to be available to our residents, which is why I pushed having our town board meetings on TV, because now people can actually see what's going on. And it was very important. I'd like to go live, but you know, I haven't been able to get the support on that yet. But you know, I think that if you're open, if you're available, if you are, you know, continuing to involve your constituents in all of the issues, you know, hopefully we can fight the negativity and go forward in a positive way, which is what I'm hoping to do in the years to come.
Anybody, somebody want to jump in here?
Well, I just want to say real quickly that, well, in Riverhead, yeah, we have a silent majority, but they certainly spoke at the last election.
Yes.
So they might have been silent maybe when it comes to town board meetings, but they certainly were not silent when it came down to the voting.
And why don't you tell, I mean, everybody in the room might not be familiar with what exactly.
Well, we have an all-Republican board, although we're not all cut from the same cloth, but we have the same core values, and it was a sweep and a pretty 65%. I mean, it was a big sweep in Riverhead. So I think. But
the issue, one of the main issues there was.
One of the main issues was that we were being accused of being too business friendly. We weren't listening to the civics. We weren't being environmentally sensitive, which wasn't true, by the way. But in any event, it empowered us now to go ahead and go forward. And you know, I've been working with Erica and also the smart growth, and they're all great ideals. You need to do that. You need to do community building because you want to sustain your downtown areas. Riverhead's unique because we have the riverfront, we have the railroad station, we have a beautiful core right down near the river, and it's the Conic estuary. So smart growth is ideal for that area. It's absolutely a draw, and we're going to work to do that.
So the bottom line in Riverhead is that people want this stuff.
Well, because people are spending more time in their communities because there's not a lot of money out there to be traveling. So people are taking more vested interest in their communities to see what they could do to create a place where they could stay and work and play. And so that's what we're working towards.
If I could jump in, I think people want people want their communities to be improved. They don't want their main street to be downtrodden. They want development where they have attractive housing. They want access for their youth. But they still are resistant to the change and to the process of actually construction, that period from the project being presented to the project actually being built. Most projects, once they're complete, people are fine with. It's the actual process that you go through that gets distorted and gets undermined in so many different ways. And the people, the elected officials who might be there that start the process might not be there at the end of the process, and you get pretty sensitive to that after a while.
Councilman Ambrosino, then we'll go back over this.
Well, I care about my community. I've got born and raised
no,
here.
hang on. I'm going over to Nassau.
Okay.
I got to go to the foreign land for a
You
little
look
while.
over this way.
Foreign land.
The foreign land.
Thank you, Joy. It's good to be here. I think a fundamental theme that's being said today is basically built into the whole problem of an actual zoning code. What is a zoning code? But a zoning code is a codification of the status quo. People get comfort, it's human nature to get comfort in the status quo, and when you have something codified in a zoning code, you're basically laying out a set of expectations as this is what is permitted here, and this is designed to preserve the status quo. That is in direct opposition to what visioning is and what smart growth plans are, because they are prospective in nature. The fundamental solution is to link up the prospective nature of a visioning plan with changing the status quo, but it can't be done overnight. And I'm just going to point out to a very parochial project. I see Rosalie Norton here. The way we were able to change something in West Hempstead was by moving the people's aversion to the status quo over at the Courtesy Hotel. We had tremendous political momentum with getting down that ridiculous property, but that was the way to move the status quo in a forward-moving plan. If you face it on direct, you're going to face opposition. There's going to be political problems.
But the Courtesy Hotel was kind of easy. In many ways.
Let's take a hard one. How about the hub?
Well, hang on. I tell you what. We're going to go over here. But meanwhile, what I want to do is the other thing that's interesting about this panel is that we have more mayors and council people here, more who deal with these issues than supervisors here. So after we get through this round, I want to open it up to the whole group. What advice would you give the good folks trying to figure out what to do with the hub in terms of what worked in your area to making that work? But first, to Suffolk.
Well,
It was far.
even part of, well, first starting even success, people are scared of change, yes, but you have to, first you have to work with community groups, let them trust the process. What was being done wrong in the past, a lot of times, the developer, the builder, meets with the planning department, and the residents don't get it seen, they don't get to see anything until it's already baked. Then they don't trust the process. What has to be done, which has been very successful in Bayshore, in the town of Islip, is community involvement with the planning. The planning department almost directed them, go out to the chambers, go out to the summits, and let the residents feel part of the process. And that's what's been successful. The hub, Brookhaven hub, what recently has happened, and to be blunt, is since our administration is going to be changing in January, hopefully it'll be better in the future. On Brookhaven side, they're doing a lot of work. They had 7 public hearings for what they're going to do at the Ronkonkoma train station. On the Islip side, there was no hearings. And the Ronkonkoma residents were upset. They're not against any form of something being done there, but the only thing they saw in the paper they were getting was, their term was cesspool. So they just haven't been communicated with. So going January forward, we are going to have I want to have the planning department with the town, board members. Let's give presentations, let's start dialogue, because what also could be done on the Islip side. So that was one, say, deficiency over the last couple of years, is again, was not working with the community, making part of the project. How do we make it a win-win for both the towns, the redevelopment, for the school district taxes and everything else?
Councilwoman?
Yes, I think one of the most difficult things, particularly I think for Suffolk elected officials, is that we have very few models to point to. It is very difficult to get these smart growth projects through the process. We sort of fight and claw to do so. And then when we accomplish that, we are challenged in court, and that prolongs the process. So getting one of these things built and actually there as a model to show people that it's not this scary thing, this is not going to change your way of life. One of the things that I always get as an attack is that Kepert is trying to Queensify Brookhaven. And so, you know, there are these silly notions out there, but unfortunately we can't say, well, look at this project. This improved your quality of life, it improved the traffic, it improved safety on the roadways, it created affordable housing. So it's very, very important to get those projects on the ground. And unfortunately, the frustration, certainly for me, and I imagine the rest of the public officials up here, is that it does take years.
I'm going to go back to Butch over here, back to Mayor. and then we're going to come back over here again.
Just a couple of quick points. As being involved with Warren and the Nassau County Village Officials Association, I want to point out that one size doesn't fit all, and there was a lot of fear from other elected, other mayors in villages that are just doing fine, and they have vibrant downtowns, and they just don't want mixed use. And so I don't believe one size fits all. But one of the things that scared me through this whole process is some of the quotes, and I'll never mention names, but from very influential elected officials, and I'll never forget this question: what kind of people are going to live in this housing? That blew me away. And my response, I have to give you my response, it was, you mean black and white? You mean Democrat, Republican, or I don't know what you mean by the question. And then I said, I think my kids and your kids. So that's the fear that's out there, and I don't know what's driving their bus. I have no clue, but I kind of think it's a Democrat-Republican thing. I think there's influences bigger than this whole room here. And then the other thing that blew me away, and I heard the woman from out in the Hamptons, and I've gone through these ugly, ugly elections, and people can't win their argument with the facts anymore. You can't put detailed facts out there and let people make educated decisions. So then the lies come out. I mean, just absolute, you just make it up and you print it enough and it becomes people's reality. And I asked, again, someone very influential elected, very influential elected, and the response was, since when does the truth matter in an election? It's win at any cost. And that's the mentality that... But
that's also the reality.
That's reality.
Right? Win at any cost? As your elected officials. Win at any cost, yes?
That's what it's come down to.
Yeah? No? No, hang on. I want to go back out east again.
Just answer your question.
No, okay. Go ahead.
In listening to all the comments and thinking about the last 2 years of being in the political realm, because prior to that I had never been in the political realm, I'm thinking that the problem boils down to a function of disconnect. And what I mean by that is, yes, I think we all believe that smart growth is good. I do think that the public, by and large, believes those concepts. But there's a disconnect between the implementation of things like smart growth or things like economically viable options for a community and people's, when they go into the voting booth, or the people who sit in those town council rooms. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of misinformation. I don't know if it's because of politics. And all of a sudden the R or the D scares people. I don't know if it's because of the media. I don't know if it's because of selfish motivations of people who get involved. I don't know. But I do know there's a disconnect. And I think that the answer to ultimately attaining what all of us know we need on Long Island, and we all know we need our youth to stay, we need jobs, we need the place to remain beautiful, we need economic sustainability as well as environmental. For the last 30 years, we've focused on environmental. We have to shift the mindset of people and make them understand that economic sustainability is not an ugly thing. And I think that is part of the problem. There's a whole marketing issue.
Let me switch over to a little bit. We're going to get to that hub. I still want you all to think about advice you're going to give them for the hub. But you talked about affordable housing. You talked about youth leaving. How do you as a public official sort of balance what has become a demand, or a perceived at least demand, for multifamily housing, multiple units, with foreclosure? Because that's the foreclosure rate on Long Island, because that right now is the newest argument out against going after this kind of housing. Anybody brave enough to pick this up?
I'll go.
Go.
I'll go. Well, especially with the Avalon project in Huntington, I have said from the start, I didn't vote for the first incarnation because I thought it was too dense and I didn't agree with the transit-oriented zone concept. But in the second version, it's the same density as we already have in Avalon 1 and 2 in Melville. But the problem is there's, I think, 33 units of 3-bedroom, $508,000 for sale units in Avalon. Now, I have a problem with that because we do have a lot of foreclosures in the area where we're building this in Huntington Station. And I don't think we should be competing with the people who are in foreclosure and are trying to sell their homes by building 3-bedroom ownership units at $508,000. So I went to Avalon and I gave them 3 different versions where they could still make the same amount of money, but they can change those 3-bedroom ownership units to 1-bedroom ownership units and 2-bedroom ownership units, because the new incarnation doesn't have a single 1-bedroom ownership unit, which is a problem. So, and I think that communities would tend to support projects if they're built rationally related to the community that you're putting it in. And if you have a community that has a high number of foreclosures and you come forward with a large number of ownership units at $508,000, which are going to compete with the foreclosures in the community, you're going to have nothing but opposition from that community. So if the developer doesn't try to pay attention to what's happening in the community and listen to the people, then you're going to have the lawsuit, which we have now. You know, same thing like Rulin Road we have in Huntington. Rulin Road, when the Greens was built, was supposed to be 115 1-bedroom affordable equity units. We have not built a single 1-bedroom equity unit in Huntington since Whitman Village. We have been fought by a guy by the name of Rob Ralph, who was with Housing Help and is now in his own housing group, but got Skadden Arps, who's been representing them for 12 years now, fighting the town of Huntington to build this. You're cutting me off? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. That's all right. Thank you for backing up, so I give you the eye. Nassau. Foreclosures versus multifamily housing.
I'm sorry, Joy.
If
you don't mind, I just want to, I can make it. If you don't, I want to change the tack a little bit. I've heard whatever you had to say, and I think that, first of all, I should say I have to be careful. Most of my bosses are here today. In fact, Mayor Kreitzman, who's the president of our association, is with us this morning. But I heard what Mr. Monti said, and he's absolutely right. He was very passionate, very articulate in what he had to say. But my concern is down the road, it's not going to happen in many instances. And I'll tell you one of the problems is, and it's called the state of New York. They, for instance, just put out what they called it's a misnomer, a 2% tax cap. It's not a 2% tax cap. It's a tax on the levy, and that's a big difference. Many of the governments in this room will not be able to support the big ticket items as they try and make their budgets go. It will never happen later on down the pike. You won't be able to do road work, and you won't be able to do any of the things that are important, as Mr. Monti put out. So that's something you have to consider. New York State has not been a friend of local governments. They're going to have a $3 billion deficit next year. They're going to be worse off than us. That's just a fact of reality, and I'm sorry.
I think, though, that's where, if you're looking in a room of people who want to know how to make it work, the answer it always comes down to infrastructure. Because governments can't fix the problems, we can't necessarily deal with the environmental remediation. We can't deal with the major or massive infrastructure investments, although from time to time we are able to come up with some small solutions. If someone's going to rebuild in a community, if a developer wants to come in and reconstruct an area, part of the answer has to be, you have to be part of the solution. And part of the solution almost always involves infrastructure. Are you going to be able to help deal with the water issues and the garbage issues and the road issues? And that's, we talk about the hub, the investment would have had to have been that they were going to be able to recreate some of the infrastructure so that it works better, not just for the people who are going to be living there, but for the surrounding communities. And if you could do that, then that gives the elected official the ability to go to their community and say, if we let these people make an investment in our community, not only do we have this financial investment, not only are we beautifying a certain area, but we're also fixing some of the problems that we're not going to be able to fix ourselves as a government. We just don't have the resources. It's not realistic. And so when you're part of the solution and not part of the problem, you have a better chance of getting something through.
You've also brought up something that we were going to get into. It's road work, it's sewers, it's water. I know you.
I wanted to say something about the affordable housing issue.
We'll go back to go for it.
I'd like to say the problem. I don't know if we in East Hampton are unique. I'm not sure, but in East Hampton, the affordable housing versus the foreclosure issue is. They don't really jibe directly because we only have one option in East Hampton, and that's a single-family home. And affordable housing, to me, we have to offer more options to people. We have to offer apartments. We have to offer, condos, townhouses, whatever, and we don't have any other models. So to only rely on the houses that are being foreclosed doesn't solve the problem for everybody because some people can't afford a house, period.
Councilman Connie.
Yeah, your question was also really about rental options right now, And part of the problem what we got to originally, we're losing our youth off Long Island and everything. And a lot of times we talk about affordability. I think government in the past, or residents thought affordability was what's going to be a new Levitt. No, our problem was lack of product, which is the studios, the one bedrooms. We're losing so many of our kids to Sunnyside, Hoboken, and Jersey City because we lack product. And right now, that is where some of the demand is. And we also have to make the designs fun. You think about where are the cool places to live on Long Island. There's not many fun places. But I see some of that positively is happening besides in Bayshore and other townships like in Patchogue Village, where you're building good design, good architecture, studios, one bedrooms, rentals, some ownership. But for a while, back in the 80s, it seemed like every condo that was built was 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and was like 2,000 square feet. What are some of the 500 and 700 square feet units? And that's what we have to do more of by the train stations that we're trying to do in our town so far.
Before we get to Councilwoman over here, I just want to, just an informal survey. How many of you have adult children living in your house?
Have who?
Adult children living in your house. How many of you have adult children who don't live on Long Island anymore and made the decision not to leave? How many of you would like to be around your grandchildren when they're born? All right. That kind of.
Thank you, Joy. Some of you don't know, but I have 2 jobs, which I was roundly criticized in the election. But I am also a teacher. I teach at Longwood High School. And I have 3 sons. And what young people are looking for is not only affordable housing, and of course that's extremely important. They're also looking for exciting places, interesting places to live. My youngest son is in the process of buying a small home in Patchogue. Why is he going to Patchogue? Because it's a vibrant place. It has restaurants. It has things to do. It's exciting. It has young people. And so, you know, when we're designing these smart growth projects, we need to be sure that we are designing exciting places to be, that we have, you know, the traditional, the live, work, play type of scenario, not only affordable units. Those are important, but we also need, in order to keep our kids on Long Island, we need to build interesting places to be.
How many old folks out there would like to also live in interesting places?
And for the old folks. I don't want to leave out the old folks.
And yet my job is to make sure it's not so interesting because the people in my community don't want it so interesting that people are coming in all hours of the night and developing noise and other issues. And so
would they like it better if older people came in the middle of the night? Or is it anti-youth? Or I'm just...
No, I think it's one of the realities of high-end suburbs that when you have you live in a sleepy suburb, sometimes you want it to be a sleepy suburb. And again, I love the idea of having a vibrant Main Street, and certainly I've done a lot of things to try to achieve that, and so I don't want you to think that I'm one of those folks that is limiting this stuff, although, you know, I have to see it both ways. The reality is, if you have a community and you're trying to do a redevelopment, and the developer comes in and says, we're going to make all this exciting and we're going to do all this great stuff, that's going to scare a lot of people. You have to understand the community that you're going into, and as an elected official, I have to know that my community, you know, we did a film festival, and the reason we could do a film festival is because I went around the community and said, we're going to invite thousands of people to come to North Hempstead, to Great Neck, Port Washington, see a movie, go to a restaurant, and then leave. And that's what they want them to do. They don't want them to stay, they don't want them to make too much noise, and they don't want them to create too much traffic, and they don't want them to create too much other issues that are going to ruin their quality of life, and that's a great challenge.
I just want to quickly respond to that. I mean, one of the things, one of the first books I read on smart growth was the Death and Life of Great American Cities by Jane Jacobs. And one of the things that she underscores is that, you know, in order to make a place safe, it doesn't only take more police officers. What makes a place safe is eyes on the street. And we need to have eyes on the street not only at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, we need to have eyes on the street, you know, at night also. So, you know, that's an argument, and I understand what you're saying, but that's an argument for creating those diverse places that have some nightlife.
Mayor's Hall and Cavallaro? Now, Mayor Hall, speaking of eyes on the street, you didn't like bleary eyes on the street.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Mayor Hall has been trying to get bars out of the village of Hempstead, but I don't want necessarily to talk about bars. I just want to hear from you and your colleague in Westbury about how because you've had some successes, both of you have.
actually, I got a disciplinary hearing this morning at the Supreme Court at 10 o'clock, so, but
I'm sorry, what
no,
did you just say about
for the
that?
bar, not for me.
sorry,
Not for, no, for the,
We'll talk after.
for
We'll
a
talk
bar, for a bar,
Oh, for a bar, okay.
for a bar, not for me.
I'm just checking, dude.
Yeah.
Just checking.
No, in the village of Hempstead, I have this campaign that there's too many bars, so I have to be careful about trying to bring in a vibrant downtown with bars and attracting the college students from Hofstra University. We already have a problem near the university. We have like 3 or 4 bars where the kids go, and the residents in that area just have a big problem with those kids. So what a lot of the residents think that we're building the downtown to attract the students from the medical school that just opened up, the engineering school, Malloy College, and we're trying to make Hempstead a college town. And that's not what we're trying to do. So I have to be careful about trying to market the downtown being a vibrant place. I mean, we have the best multimodal transportation. We got the train, we got the bus. It's only 50 minutes from Manhattan. We can attract people that want to go to Manhattan, but they don't want to, pay the rent, so they come out to the village of Hempstead. We do have the most affordable housing because we got low-income housing in Hempstead. So, but we still have to be able to attract diverse group of people to the village of Hempstead, and that's what our goal is to attract empty nesters, but the party types is kind of hard to sell in the village right at this point right now.
I mourn my lost youth, but you're probably right. Mayor?
Yeah, I'm a little bit chagrined, I guess, by the negativity and the comments about it, the politicization of the process. I mean, I know that's practically speaking on a lot of the bigger projects the norm, but I think that a lot of the negativity that surrounds some of these projects is because they're not proportional and they're not sensitive to the particular community in which they're being addressed to. I'm fortunate that on a village level, I think we can be closer to our residents and kind of closer to the pulse of what the residents want. And maybe it's easier to kind of discern that. But I think I'm going to go back to my original comments, and I think that if you have a proportional project that makes sense and you can make a compelling case to your residents, at least on a village level, I think that these projects are very, very doable. And I'm going to point to the project in my village, which is the theater redevelopment project, which we were able to coalesce virtually every aspect of the community, every organization in the community around redeveloping this old, dilapidated theater building into what's going to be a performing arts center. Certainly anytime you do a project of that nature, anytime that you're looking to attract new residents and shoppers and people into your community, you're going to have challenges you're going to have to deal with, whether it's parking or traffic or other ancillary problems. But as elected officials, that's our responsibility. And I tell my residents all the time, if you go into Huntington or you go into Northport and you see what's going on in those downtowns, obviously those communities have challenges that they have to face with respect to the things that they've done successfully there. But those are good problems to have, and those are the kind of problems that I think a lot of communities would love to have. We're hoping that our downtown, sort of the culmination of what we've done over the last 10 years is this theater. And I think that maybe one of the reasons the last 2 times, Money Magazine ranked the places where young professionals want to live, Westbury was in the top 22 years in the last 3 years to do that, because we have the location, we have things all around us, and this theater, to bring some arts into the downtown. So, I know it's easy to focus on the failures or the ones that create the negative publicity, but I think, as I think Mayor Starkie said, the success really is the singles and the doubles, and I think there are a tremendous number of those, including in Westbury and other areas, and I think that's what we really should be focusing on, because I think that's what gives the models to other communities as to what to pursue. These big projects that are, targets for all the negativity are not the ones really that I think that are the ones we should be talking about, because those are, you know, they have problems in and of themselves. I think these smaller ones, the bunt singles and the doubles, are the ones we should be focusing on, because a lot of positives there. Sorry.
That's okay. I want to make sure we leave enough time for questions. And by the way, it looks like we're off schedule, but they actually gave me until 9:55. So just chill it out, y'all. Chill it out. Just chill it out. In a sense, where is he? He's got the mic there. Let's switch over to questions now. Anybody got any questions for anybody, member of our panel? I'll remind you, you probably want a question rather than a comment.
Rather than a comment.
Okay.
Ladies first.
My question is
I'm sorry, can you give us a name and what group you're with?
I'll even stand up. I'm Diana Coleman. I'm a community activist for more than 30 years, so I have watched several communities try projects, especially in a minority community, such as Roosevelt. And it's not that we don't believe you, but we have been left in the wake so many times with the smart growth, the unsmart growth, and our communities do not seem to thrive. So if we're looking at how do we do a real partnership, the partnership, I hope, through the mayors and the various boards, are you looking to do real grassroots incorporation in your projects? I know, John, that you had said that you know, you got to do the infrastructure, you have to do the schools, you have to do all these things. Are there plans to incorporate that in your smart growth?
Are we really listening to Nassau? Let's hear it from Suffolk. Just a brief answer.
Well, I can say in Riverhead, yes. We do grassroots, we do consensus building. I think it's apparent that the people of, at least the town of Riverhead, want the Main Street and the Railroad Avenue area to be redeveloped.
Okay, so let me just ask by a show of hands. How many say yes? Yes, you're going to include the public. Yes?
Yes to what's the question?
To her question. The answer is yes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, we have a very active
Another question.
Just let me sneak in here. I mean, we have done 2 visionings, one in Gordon Heights and one in North Bellport, that are very successful and that do definitely include minority communities.
Next. Name, please, and your organization.
My name is Marshall Myers. I'm actually an associate broker for Laffey Fine Homes, Nassau County, Westbury specifically. I guess not so much a question, but a comment I would like to see personally. I would like to see a real estate broker on your panel, because I think real estate brokers in Nassau and Suffolk and Queens and so on are involved with the daily ebb and flow of the population that moves in and out of this region. And I would like to see, actually what I would really like to see, and especially in the town of Hempstead, is a real estate advisory council. I think the real estate people that do this every day for a living are not as involved as they should be.
Okay, well, you can talk to Eric about that. And is there...
Randy Kaplan from LIBOR has been working with us on participation in this summit and other connections with the real estate community, so thank you.
And also, this is an elected officials. So what you have to do is get somebody to run, right, and make it up here. Question?
Right. Let's get to the back of the room here.
Question? Run, Eric, run. Faster, faster. Pick it up. Come on.
Okay, I have a question particularly for Peter Cavallaro.
I'm sorry, can we get your name and your organization?
My name is Sharon Cedino, and I'm from Leadership Huntington. And my question is, what is the role of elected leaders in helping set the agenda for smart growth? In other words, are the leaders supposed to set the agenda and publicize, market the issue, or is it supposed to come just from the outside, from developers or from the public?
Well, I think the short answer is leadership. And I think, you know, elected officials cannot allow developers to come in and set the agenda. And I think that that's a problem that's been seen with some of these really big projects, is that there hasn't been enough leadership, and I'm not criticizing anybody, in terms of reining in what maybe were the initial proposals by the developer. I think that it has to be, as John has alluded to, sort of a community-based approach. You have to be sensitive to the needs of the community and the desires of the community. As again, Mayor Starkie said, one size does not fit all. And I think that you have to be in tune with your residents or your stakeholders, and you have to try to manage the process on both ends so that the developers' expectations are right-sized and that the community's expectations and the community's desires are met. So I think it's leadership, and that's why we're elected, is to exhibit leadership and to try to bring parties together and act as a mediator to bring parties together. And then once the formal process starts, to make sure that every interest is served.
Eric, is this our last question?
Will Stoner, AARP. It's no mystery to us that many of the vocal minorities that are yelling and screaming at your meetings are our members. So it's more of an offer. Any of the public officials in the room, we have 600,000 members on Long Island. Reach out to us. We'll find a handful in every community that will be the vocal majority or part of the vocal majority.
Thank you.
It's a pretty cool offer.
Can I just respond a little bit also? 'Cause I agree with what Peter Cavallaro said. But it's also, people come to myself and I assume mayors and other supervisors and say, well, what can we do in your community? And are there any parcels of land? Are there any opportunities? And it does take leadership from the development community, from the smart growth community, to come forward and say, here's a parcel that we would like to work on, and we can fix it. We can make it better. We can clean it up. We can deal with the water and all those other issues, the infrastructure issues, as I've mentioned. And so I think it takes leadership on the municipal level to be able to respond and create a process by which people in the various development communities, whether it's real estate and the architects and the contractors, to be able to come in and do a project. But it really is incumbent upon those who want to come into a community to, one, understand what the local community needs, to understand if you're going to come in and ask for 160 units and the property is a half-acre size property, you're probably not going to get it, and work within the process that we've set up and be part of the solution again. But I think it is a partnership. It has to be a developer that has an appreciation of what they're dealing with. They have to have some of the creativity, and then it's at the leadership of the municipal level to be able to get them through the process, and then it becomes a partnership.
I want to thank, first off, you guys for your attention. I didn't see anybody fall asleep out there. That's always a bonus. I also want to thank the members of the panel. I know it's not an easy thing, although this isn't so hard. There's so many of you. How often can you get in a trip? No, we don't want it longer. And before I turn this back over to Eric, I just want to, again, leave you with Reverend DeVoe's thought as we kind of go through the day. We must leave this place better than we found it. Thank you.